Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome back to my podcast of inspiring stories. This is Mavish, your host here. Guys, like always, I am back with another survivor story. Today, I bring on Veronica, who comes forward and speaks her truth. Her story is extremely inspiring, and there is so much to learn from her story. I'm super excited to have her on board, and without any further delay, I'm going to bring her on and hear her story. Let's venture in, and there we go. I hope you're all having a there we go, a beautiful Thursday, guys. It's extremely hot over here. It was 118 over here. So you can well imagine we were literally melting today. Literally, we were melting. And I could actually have made tea outside. It was so hot. She's in the house. I've sent her the request and just waiting to connect with her. Just give a few minutes. Veronica, I sent you the request. If you accept it, we could go live. I hope that you are logging on from your cell phone because no other device somehow works with Instagram IGTV lives. Uh, I hope that you got the request. If there is something that you can't figure out, just write in the comment section and I will let you know. Guys, I'm not taking any requests to go live with you. I have a special guest today and I will be just going live with her. So please stop sending me requests. And let me see where my guest is because she's in, I can see her in the chat box. So Veronica, if you can see me, you have to log in from a cell phone and because not any other device is going to work. So make sure that you're logging on from your cell phone. Guys, I have somebody who's coming forward tonight and she's going to share her survivor story, how she survived emotional abuse from the age of 6. Her story is amazing. Hey there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. So, Veronica, before we dive in and hear your story, just a little introduction about yourself, please, if that's okay.
Yeah, what would you like to know? I'm here in the UK. I am a mum. I've got 3 beautiful boys. They are 12, 8, and 4. Um, and yeah, wonderful husband. And yeah, I'm trying to sort myself out.
All right. Thank you so much for letting us know all that, Veronica. So let's get I do know the background about your story. And I believe that it began from a very young age. The abuse began from a very young age. So I would want you to speak about it however you're comfortable with and let
Mhm.
everybody hear your story.
Okay. Um, so yeah, for me, things sort of seemed to take a turn when I was about age 6. I was in primary school. I started school and um, became friendly with another family that my parents knew. And unfortunately, while I was having like playtime, play dates at this person's house, I quickly got wrapped up in games with the it's a strange situation. Her parents would encourage activity between myself and their daughter, which sort of sexual nature, and then would watch and in sort of involve themselves on occasion. And yeah, it went on for a number of years while I was friends with this person. Every time I would go over to play, they would start up these games, and it was not something that I really fully understood. I was obviously extremely young. You know, I was sort of 6 to, I think, maybe 7 or 8. This went on for a number of years, and I just knew something wasn't right. It wasn't normal. It didn't feel right to me. And then eventually, obviously, unfortunately, I was also being bullied quite badly at school as well by kids my own age, including the girl that the daughter of the family that was doing this to me. And so eventually I managed to confess to my mother that I was being bullied at school, and she moved me to a different school. And that's when I stopped going to this person's house, and the abuse in that way stopped.
Oh, Veronica, can I stop and ask you
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
Okay, so what I'm getting is you were going to somebody's house who were encouraging with their own daughter these plays, right? These acts and
Mm,
whatever. Okay. And they would sit back and watch and sometimes get involved if they wanted to.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was the father mostly. Yeah.
Okay. So from the age of 6 onwards, and of course you were young, you didn't know much, but at any point before uh, you went to your mom and you told her that you were being bullied, did you feel, uh, when they came over, hey, let's go for a play date over at my place, you felt like, no, I don't want to go. You felt discouraged. You felt
Yeah,
like, no. Yeah, did you go through
yeah,
those
yeah.
moments?
Pretty much every time, my heart would sort of lurch a little bit, and that I would sort of think, oh, you know, I don't want to. It's weird. It's I don't get on with them and stuff like this, and I would make lots of excuses, sometimes faking illness and things like that, because I
Mm,
didn't feel comfortable, going around there. And eventually, like I said, I managed to open up to my mum and said things aren't going well at school, and she then moved me to a different place where, I mean, unfortunately, I was bullied very badly throughout my entire childhood, so it didn't stop with just that one school. I ended up going to a number of different schools,
mm.
um, and
Do you
I
think do
never
you think
saw
that
this from
that the
them.
do you think that the bullying happened because of the trauma you were going through, uh, and that kind of shattered your self-esteem?
Yeah, possibly they saw me maybe as an easy target.
Mm,
I was noticeably different anyway. I had short red hair, like cut like a boy's,
mhm.
until I was about 8 years old. Um, and I think it was curly, it was bright red, and I
Okay.
think they saw me as just like, oh, this is someone we can really, rip apart. And because of what I'd already been through, I had big problems uh, talking to people my own age.
Mm,
I found it I would sort of stutter and um, couldn't string sentences together. And when I did, I didn't know what to say. And I was always very uncomfortable and a bit awkward around other people my own age.
Mm,
I could talk at length to people that were my parents' age or my, younger siblings' age, but not my own age, anyone, that was the same age as me.
mm,
So yeah, I really struggled throughout school because of that. And that sort of has continued, unfortunately, right through my adult life, because
mm,
rightly or wrongly, I never told a single person
mm.
until this year, and I'm 38 years old. Um,
Wow.
so until this year, I had never opened up about this to anybody, not told a single person. Um, and uh, it took a lot for me to eventually even uh, open up about this to just one or two people. And it was only because I got really poorly with a mental illness that I had to open it up to my husband, just so that he could understand what it was that I had been through and why this was all coming up to the surface now,
Mm.
Um,
Right, right.
yeah.
Wow. So throughout, so right, just a few months, like right now, it's been lately that you started to open up and tell what you've been through. Uh, well, on that, I really want to thank you and applaud you that you came forward and you said you wanted to share your story because you wanted to help so many other people who were suffering something similar.
Mhm.
Veronica, I wanted to ask, when you went through that as a child, was there, how was your household environment? Was it normal? And if so, uh, then did ever your mom or dad pick on that something was off and have a conversation with you, or they just thought, oh, she's just growing up, she's just going through puberty and adulthood and
Mhm.
teenagehood stuff, you know?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, we were a fairly normal middle class sort of white English family, two adults, married, two parents, and three children,
Mm,
and everything uh, on the surface is fine. But my mum always loved her work. Sometimes it felt like she loved it more than us. And quite
mm,
often we would be made to sort of take second place to work and to her career. And she would sometimes tell us things like, you know, that we were a mistake, or, a surprise or whatever, and that, if she'd had her way, she would never have had children. And she, even as an adult, when I had my own children, she was very open about the fact that she doesn't like children. And she tells me all the time that, oh, you know me, I don't like children really. Give them to me when they're 8, 9, 10 years old, and I can start to teach them things, and I'm much better. But she hates babies and she hates toddlers, and she's quite open with me about that. So it's she was a very nurturing person. She wanted to get the best out of us, but sometimes it felt like we were sort of a challenge or something to her. Rather, she's not a particularly maternal person, I wouldn't say. She's not one to sort of sit down and do a film night or hugs or, lots of kisses or anything like that. It was always very much sort of, you had to behave, and if you behaved, you would be given a treat, or given a reward, or maybe like that's how you got a new pair of trainers or whatever. It was a very odd sort of relationship that she had with us, and she was on her own a lot of the time. My dad worked away a lot, so I
mm,
think she was just really busy, and she was obviously working very hard as well. um, they never really picked up on anything going on with this other family. I think I hid it well, and I buried it very, very deep. So deep, in fact, that it's taken 30 odd years for it to
mm,
come up to the surface. Um, However, that being said, however, I think the struggles that I had in school, throughout school, were probably partly to do with that, but I
mm,
think they were the the troubles I'd had at school was what was blamed for how I was feeling, and you know, the sort of, you know, any sort of unusual situation was blamed from the trauma of you know, being bullied so badly, you know, at school. It got quite physical at times, and I was at one point someone took a piece of cutlery to my face, and you know, I used to hide at school, in the music room actually, and I learned how to play the piano extremely well because of it. And the piano was one way of me, how do I explain this? Like,
Finding your peace.
yeah, communicating my feelings actually, I
Right.
think
Okay.
more. I did it through music, and that was one area that my mum really did, I suppose, did do quite well, is that, you know, she would sit and listen to me play the piano, and it was how, in some ways, I suppose that was how we communicated.
Communicated.
Yeah, yeah. I would, you know, play sad pieces if I was feeling sad or happy, or you know, whatever. And
Whatever you feel.
um,
Right.
yeah, it
Somebody's
was a
asking,
therapy.
guys. Sorry, Veronica, I'm cutting you. Uh,
It's okay.
my guest has asked to keep her identity, so that is why you can't see her. There's no technical issues there. She doesn't want to show herself, and I respect that. The point is, she wants to deliver a message through her story, and that's why we're here. Veronica, getting back to you, I think that besides the abuse that you received from the neighbor, I think that I think from your parents, especially your mom, there was issues of abandonment and rejection and lack of
Yeah,
affection, and I
definitely.
think that is why you from a very young age learned to bury your pain inside of you, because you were not taught to process your emotions or
Mm,
show your emotions. There was nobody there to validate that for you when you were young. So I think
yeah.
why, when you say it's taken me 38 years to come forward with my story, is that you thought that this was the right way. It was that's why you kept it buried inside of you.
Yeah, definitely. You know, my dad worked really, really hard. He was the one that was the out of the two, my mum and my dad. My dad was, you know, still is a wonderful man. He was so caring, and he was the out of the two, he was the gentle one. He was the one that would play in the garden and give a, you know, he was the one when he came home, we'd run up and give him a massive hug. Whereas for mum, she was very, we
Cold.
always thought she was very much like a sergeant major. You know, you sit there and you stay still and you behave, and don't you dare embarrass me, and things like this, you know. So I think, yeah, from quite a young age, I didn't really fully know how to, I was never taught how to communicate what I was feeling inside. So yeah, I
Mm.
did it through, for me, it came out in my music. I was really, really lucky to, um, in some ways, to learn how to play the piano and the guitar and loads of other instruments. And also, I had a lot of animals, and you know, I would look after them, and I would talk to the guinea pigs and the rabbits and dogs and cats. We had hundreds of animals, and it was like that was a way of therapy as well for me as a kid. Um,
Mm.
but you know, all through childhood, and then unfortunately I got into a number of bad relationships.
Mm.
I've since, in the last couple of months, I've been doing a lot of reading and trying to sort of learn up myself about all this stuff. And I've learned that once something like this has happened to you, it tends to be that you almost gravitate towards um, these sorts of people,
Mm.
you know. And once you've had a bad experience for some reason, you're more likely to have another bad experience. So yeah, I had a number of quite abusive boyfriends, and then eventually married a man who, whilst he would be, I'm sure, wonderful for somebody out there, he was never physically abusive. Emotionally, he was so I don't want to say the word shallow, because I think that sounds really negative, but he would he never fully understood how much I need to talk and communicate with people now as an adult. I'm quite a highly charged, sensitive person. Um, my husband now is wonderful at that. We talk hours and hours and hours every day, um, about things in great depth, and it's wonderful. I almost feel like I'm like, right, I've had enough now. I don't want to talk anymore. But my previous marriage was very he was your classic narcissist, and would um, just say horrendous things like, oh, if we were in a one example for comes to mind, when we were in a quiz with my parents, I would offer a suggestion, and immediately he would say, oh, well, it's obviously not going to be that, is it? Don't be so stupid, and things
Mm,
like this. So I was just constantly belittled, put
mm,
down, made to feel really insignificant, to the point where I didn't have any more friends left. My self-esteem was at rock bottom, and eventually I almost gave up. I got very, very depressed when I had my two older children with him, and that's when a lot of the issues I have now as an adult and battle daily with anxiety and mental illness, that's when a lot of that seemed to come to a head and bubble up and get really, really bad. Yeah.
mm, yeah. And I know you mentioned that once you get in a bad relationship, then you keep on going, right? Actually, the
Mm.
thing is, we keep on attracting wrong people because we don't stop and see that there is something wrong inside of us that needs to be addressed,
Mm.
that needs to be looked into, that needs healing. And because we just mask it and not address it, we this is how we process it, by attracting the wrong people. That is why healing is encouraged so much, because unless and until you get to the bottom of why you attract these kind of men in your life, or friends, or work people, whatever it is that you need to see where it's stemming from. It's usually stemming from, in your case also, it was the abuse that was left unaddressed, and you had to just shut yourself down from it. You had to block yourself, I'm not going to talk about it, or whatever
Mm.
you did in those moments.
Yeah.
Then the emotional setup in your house was completely out of place, where your mom was just not there. There was nobody there to tell you to process your emotions, and
Mm.
you were always basically walking on eggshells with your mom, because
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was always, we don't want to upset her, we don't want to do anything that will make her mad, and she was
Yeah.
cold, so you didn't receive
Yeah.
the affection. So there was a lot that went unaddressed. And not that I'm trying to blame some you or anybody in this case, but the thing is that when a survivor realizes that they're in an emotional abusive relationship, like you said, he was a narcissist, there was again complete lack of emotions. There was no validation. You wanted to talk, you wanted to communicate, and he just put you down. You're stupid. He belittled you. uh,
Mm.
and that happened because you were brought up in that atmosphere, and that became your normal. So you thought this
Yeah.
was normal. And it takes a lot for a survivor to understand, really to look within themselves actually, and see where is it stemming from. Why am I doing this? And I'm going a bit in detail, because if somebody's listening right now and if somebody is in a toxic abusive
Mm.
relationship, I'm talking especially about emotional abuse here, because physical abuse, it's apparent, everybody can see it. Somehow it does
Yeah.
gets the attention. But emotion abuse is always ignored and neglected and left at side. You
Mm.
don't find support, is because people don't understand the damage it does to
Mm.
a person. And you guys will hear her story, how much she suffered because of that. But I think that we need to really, for survivors who are on their healing, I really would encourage you, where you yourself have to validate what's happened to you. Nobody else is going to do that for you, and don't expect anybody to do that. You need to validate
Mm,
your own pain for what you've been through, because nobody's actually seen what you've gone through. You know
mm,
that. So you will have to find a way to validate your own pain. And there are tools
mm,
and there are strategies out there, of course, but for anybody listening, you need to validate that. For Don't look for, oh, I'm going to find this person and he'll love me and he'll take care of me, and there the validation will come. No, you have
mm,
to validate your own. You can want support, you can want somebody to be there to listen, but you will actually have to do the inner work yourself. And once
mm,
you validate that, yes, I was emotionally abused and tortured emotionally, and nobody deserves to be treated like that. But the next step is going to be to look within yourself and look for the answer. Why was I abused? Why did I choose to be abused? Because for people like her story, uh, it stemmed from low self-esteem, right? And
mm,
there was the reason the abuse was there. That is why the low esteem came in from a very young age. Now, a person who suffers from low self-esteem is living in an environment which is highly toxic, and they are conditioned as kids, um, that this is my normal, and then they go live that cycle, not knowing until it becomes too much, because now the childhood trauma into adulthood, and till whenever you hit a gray rock and you're like, I can't take this anymore, uh,
yeah.
you realize, and then you're like, okay, something is wrong. Okay, you join the dots. Okay, I was emotionally abused, blah blah blah. But now, why? Okay, I suffer from low esteem. Why? Because of the abuse. Okay, that's not where it ends, because some people think that's it and then they just go on living. I call that the victim mindset, because now
Mm,
you are finding an excuse to validate your actions. And what is that? You live in that self pity mode. Now you reach out to people and you say, whoever, and you say, I was emotionally abused, and that's why I was so messed up, and I'm on my recovery, whatever. That is absolutely
mm,
okay and valid. I'm not saying that's not. But then you have to do the deep work, and the deep work comes from, you have to build your esteem. You have to do the work. You have to raise the bar. You have to raise your standard,
mm.
because now your standard is mediocre. It's okay to be
Yeah.
abused. It's okay to be shouted at. It's okay. This is the normal. This is how life has been for everybody, blah, blah, blah.
Mm,
Whatever stories are, you're backing them up with. So you need to say, no, this is not right for me. So I'm going to raise my bar. And how I'm going to raise my bar is, I'm going to build my confidence, I'm going to build
mm,
my esteem, and I'm going to raise my bar, I'm going to raise my standard. So next time when I am ready, and when I step out to attract somebody in my life, then it is not the same person, it's not the same abuse, differently more. You do the first abuse, it was subtle, it was different. The second one was slightly different, and the third one was different. The abusers are all different, playing different ways to attract you, right? They're not all the
yeah.
same. If they are all the same, then you won't get into it. uh, they have their manipulation and mind games. That's why you fall for it. uh,
Mm,
so being an empath, please do the work. I'm not saying, again, I keep on repeating this, I'm not saying what you went through is not validated and that you're not a victim. You are a
mm,
victim of emotional abuse. Yes, you have to, number one step is that when you understand, you validate, you process, and you learn how you're going to process that pain to let it go. Then the next
yeah.
step is to work within, and understand how you're going to work and bring up your esteem. Sorry, Veronica, I took that long, but I really wanted to point that out.
No,
So,
no.
your husband, your ex-husband, you had two kids from him, and you said a few times that you had anxiety and you had depression, but you had other mental
Mm,
health illnesses as well. Could you, if you're comfortable,
mm.
uh, would you share that with the audience, so they can
Yeah,
understand the
yeah.
depth of your pain?
So, yeah, currently at the moment I have a number of things that are diagnosed and undiagnosed. So the main ones I have are ME and fibromyalgia, which are both chronic illnesses related to your nervous system and how your body sort of feels. So ME is also known as chronic fatigue syndrome, and that's basically complete exhaustion all the time to the point of being on occasion paralyzed and suffering. It's not just, people think it's just tiredness. It's more than that. It's fatigue at such a strong level that you've got muscle weakness, even down to bladder control. It really is everything. You can't swallow when you're that tired. You can't hear properly. It covers every part, every muscle in your body. Fibromyalgia is pain. So that is where your nervous system is not wired properly. And I'm still learning a lot about both these illnesses. I've had them for about a year now. On top of that, I've also got something called FND, which is a functional neurological disorder, which is and that is, I think, down to the abuse I suffered when I was a kid, because I now know that when very young children are abused, especially sexual abuse, what happens is that it can actually change the way that your body responds to stress hormones, and it will cause you to respond on a different level, in a much more extreme way. So when your body releases a normal level of stress hormone, perhaps down to, you know, a rabbit runs out in front of the car, for a normal person, or if you're about to, maybe a slightly less morbid example would be, say, you know, you're going to do a presentation at work. For most normal people, that might instigate a level of, you know, sweating, or possibly some increased pulse or something like that. But for me, it will cause my body goes numb and then goes fully paralyzed, and my body is responding extremely differently to those stress hormones that have been released. I also have undiagnosed PTSD, related again to two reasons. Number one, the underlying abuse that I suffered when I was a kid, but also I went through an extremely a traumatic court battle for the custody of my two children with my ex-husband when we got divorced, which eventually it led up to me having to undertake psychological assessments and all sorts of things to prove that I was of sound mind, basically. Again, it was 4 days after that, actually, that I had my first full body paralysis, which ended up with me having my diagnosis of ME and fibromyalgia. There's no coincidence there. That was my body going, oh my God, is it over? I've had enough, and collapsed. But I have, since a very young age, I've suffered with anxiety at high levels. And, you know, that's then resulted, when I had my children, I had postnatal depression after both of them. But after my first child, my eldest, I suffered really badly with depression, and it ended up with me having two extreme phobias now. Emetophobia, which is a fear of vomit or you know, stomach illness, and germophobia, which is just general hygiene. And it got to a point where the fear was so strong that I was washing my body with bleach. I think people don't understand sometimes the way that depression can really affect you on a daily basis. It can affect you in things that you do. So for me, my phobias have resulted in me, I can never go to a barbecue. I can never eat somebody else's food. I can't eat off food. I can't eat food that's even within a day of going out of date. without it causing me to have severe panic attacks. So it has resulted in me really, really struggling on a daily basis in a number of ways. But I'm not sure how much of that, a lot of it probably does stem back to when I was young. I think for me, the trauma is layered. You know, it started with a very serious trauma that happened, like I said, when I was 6, 7, that resulted in extreme trust issues and things like that, especially with people my age, which is horrible because it means I can't go to people that are my age for support. I have to go to people that are older than me or younger than me, and I have very few friends because of it, because I don't react well to people that are my own age, which is, people sometimes find that very odd. Yeah, and then you've got the trauma that I went through at school, you know, layered on top of that, and then the trauma of you know, being in my first physically abusive relationship, and then the trauma of my emotionally sort of abusive relationship with both my mum and then later my ex-husband. You know, it's just layered one thing after another after another after another, and I feel now I'm just starting to feel strong enough in myself to start to peel back each layer and just see what's underneath, because this goes back to such a young age that, if I'm honest, I don't even know if I know how to what I will be like under all of that, who I actually am, and, you know, as a person, you know, what's my personality, and, you know, what's sort of going on underneath all of this stuff. So like you said, it's about, for me, it's about accepting that this did happen to me, and that's, you know,
and that's not your
you know,
fault.
no, it's not. You know, I've carried around 30 years worth of shame at a really deep level because of that, you know, and you know, it's been tough, because there are times when I've gone through all different emotions, including suicide and all sorts of things. But I feel right at this present moment, you know, my children are growing up. The youngest is now 4. I feel like I'm just starting to get on top of the sleep deprivation that I've had for 12 years, you know, and strong enough to actually look at this stuff in detail and work out, you know, how it's affected me, and how do I go forward from it, you know, in a positive way. Yeah.
Right. So you said that this year was when you actually addressed
Yeah.
your issues and your pain and your trauma. I want to know,
Mhm.
what was there something specific that happened this year that was like, that shook you, or that was your awakening, which I call it, that led you to really say, hey, I think I do need to heal myself and accept
Mm.
that it's not my fault for what I've been through.
Um, yeah, it's a strange one. I think actually it's probably the reason why I ended up going into detail with it was probably actually um I'm not entirely sure if it was like a specific point that I decided to go into detail with it, but um it was probably down to the fact that with my illness I have to spend a lot of time um, just resting, basically. And because I spend so much time on my own, just sitting or reading or, you know, relaxing, meditating, that I I decided that actually it was probably a lack of anything happening in my life, that I realized that now was a good time. Um, it was about 18 months ago now. It was January of last year that my husband and I suffered quite a traumatic miscarriage in the car whilst I was driving, and I think that was definitely something that made me want to sort of do better for my children. Definitely, I think when you lose a baby, the pain you feel is so deep and it's so
Yes.
raw,
Mm.
and you know, I think you feel like a failure as a woman, almost as a person,
Yes.
because you didn't manage to carry that baby or whatever.
Mm.
And yeah, it caused me to sort of reassess a lot of things. But my mum's always saying, you know, oh, what's happening now? Your life is like an EastEnders Christmas special. Um, I don't know if you've ever watched that, but it's
No.
just one severely bad drama after another with me, and
Oh,
it's never
oh, okay.
just, you know, yeah, she loves to point out how dramatic everything seems to be for me.
Mm.
It's never just you know, go to work, come home. It's always, you know, one catastrophe after another. And yeah, my miscarriage was pretty was right up there with one of the most painful times definitely in my life. But I think because I started to I had to spend a lot of time off my feet after that, because I bled for a long time and I was very poorly. I think because of that, I actually was forced to spend a lot of time thinking about things and thinking about what I would like to do differently and how I would like to get better. You know, I think unless I um, unless I start to address this stuff um,
Mm.
from right from the early ages, you know, if I don't address it, I'm not, I don't feel that I will give myself the opportunity to fully heal and get better from my illnesses as well.
Mm.
Because I'm, you know, the mental illness that I suffer on a daily basis is getting to the point where, you know, it is really affecting me on a in every way.
Mm.
You know, I struggle to go on holiday. I'm afraid of almost everything at this stage, from flying through to eating.
Mm.
You know, and I think if I don't address stuff and start to look at it and realize that, you know, I'm good enough, I'm a good person, and you know, start telling myself these positive things rather than constantly feeling ashamed of everything that's happened to me,
Mm.
I'm not going to get better,
True.
you know, or it's
Mm.
going to be a lot harder for me to get better, I should
Mm.
say.
Right. Yeah.
Um, you know, if I don't start to really treat myself like a good person, you know, treat
Mm.
myself like somebody that didn't deserve all this stuff to happen to them, you know,
Absolutely.
then, you know, it's going to be really hard for me to heal and start to be able to live a full life. Yeah.
Mm. Right. Absolutely. Were you ever or able to? I hear that you bring up your mom a lot, so I wanted to ask you: did you
Mm.
go to your mom and speak to her and say that what you're suffering through right now is some of what how she treated you as a kid?
No, um,
Does
my
she
mum,
realize that on her own?
I don't know. I
Okay.
doubt it. I doubt
Yeah.
it. I think she is very accepting of who she is and the fact that she doesn't like children. She's very accepting that, you know, she was raised by a very strict Polish father and a mother who herself was a self-confessed child, sort of, you know, didn't like kids.
Okay.
Um, I think she's getting worse as she gets older as well. She's getting a lot
Mm.
less tolerant as she gets older.
Yes,
um,
that's trauma. That's the generational trauma. You live
yeah.
that, and sadly, for generations before us, they haven't really processed and healed their traumas, and now they
Mm,
live through that lens, thinking that this is life, this is the right way. We've lived
mm,
through it, survived, and we're fine. Our kids will be fine, and their kids will be fine. But sadly, they do not see the way we see how much pain
mm,
they're living through, but the way they interact, the way they talk,
mm,
the way they treat not just their own children but themselves as well.
mm,
And
yeah.
and your mom saying that, and they're really proud of it. Your mom saying that, it's okay, my father was like that. They've already found the justification, they've already found the
Yeah.
excuse that we are this way because our father or parent was like that, and we
Mm,
survived, we were fine. You guys are too sensitive, you guys are,
mm.
whatever they say, whatever words they say. So I'm sorry to hear that for you, that you've not been
Oh,
able
it's
to
fine. I
find
think,
that closure between the parent. But I
yeah.
think that you're working on yourself, and the self
Mm,
acceptance and the self forgiveness is
mm,
actually going to help you really get through a lot of things. And I think that since your body from a very young age has gone through so much,
mm,
that now that you started addressing it, I think it's been 18 months, you said, uh,
mm,
that that traumatic event happened and you realized that I needed to change. You already embarked on your healing. I think that slowly and gradually, most of the things will just let go, because
mm.
they're just surfacing because of so many unaddressed emotions that have
Yeah.
been so deeply suppressed, due to
Yeah.
whatever your story was. Uh,
Yeah.
ah,
It's yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of a bumpy road for the next couple of years, I would think.
hmm,
Um, but I mean, I have a brother and a sister, and they both um have. I eventually realised that I was going to have to put up some boundaries
hmm,
to my mum, because there were times when she would react to my children, especially my youngest, who is a very, very spirited
hmm,
boy. He has extremely high energy and runs us all ragged. Um, but my mum has at times had him pinned up against, walls and things, saying, if you don't stop crying, I'm not going to let you get out of here and until you stop crying and things like this. And I've had to say, ask her to leave,
hmm,
because I knew she was not that she was going to hurt him, but that she was going to uh, terrify him.
hmm,
And, I was like, no, I'm not. And I felt strong enough to do that for my own kids, but I
hmm,
haven't yet felt strong enough to do it for me.
for myself.
You know,
Hmm, hmm,
for myself as a kid, I
hmm,
don't yet feel strong enough to reach out and say, what you did to me was not okay. You know,
hmm,
it's okay. I feel strong enough to say what you're doing to my children is not okay. And I love them enough to put myself in between her and them.
hmm,
Um, but I don't yet feel strong enough to say it's not okay that you know, told me to have an abortion when I first told you I was pregnant with my son. You
hmm,
know, things like that.
hmm,
I haven't yet felt strong enough to do that, but that's what I know I'm building up to. I mean, I'll never be able to confront the people that did the abuse I had when I was a child.
hmm,
I don't know them now. I don't know where they live, or I don't know if I will ever feel strong enough to do that. But at some point, I think that would be a very interesting conversation to have with my mum and
hmm,
say, I'm hoping to do it, relatively soon so that
hmm,
hopefully we can grow and come back from it. But,
hmm,
I know there have been times when I've put up sort of had a confrontation with her about things, and I felt very close to uh, losing that relationship. I
hmm,
felt that if it, I had to be the one that went and said sorry for that confrontation,
hmm,
it would never come from her.
hmm,
And I know that now, and I'd rather have my mum in my life
hmm,
um, and suffer with these incidents, or not, or confront her about them and push her away.
hmm.
So that's something that I'm still going through, but hopefully I'll feel strong enough to do that at some point in the future.
Mhm. Right, right. And that's totally okay. It's a process, and you taking the steps one at a time every day. go such a massive way in the longer run. So I want to take a minute and applaud you for all the strength and all the resilience you've showed, uh, and how you've come forward and shared such detail with the audience, people you don't know, just because you want to send a message of hope and encouragement for anybody who's either suffered or is suffering through something similar, that things
Yeah,
can get better and you can take control over your life and transform and change through your healing.
yeah, definitely. It's one of those things. I think if you don't, sometimes people think, oh, oh, girls, especially when it comes to sexual abuse, often bury it very deep, because of the shame associated with
Mm,
that,
mm,
knowing that what you did was wrong, um, feeling that it's down to you, something that you must have done to lead on the person or whatever. I think often you can bury it very, very deep inside, and eventually people think it'll just go away, and it doesn't. It will. Your body will eventually it will fight back,
mm,
in its own way. And I think nowadays, as a generation, we suffer so much with anxiety
mm.
and depression. The number of people that I know that are on antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication is massive. The fact
Yes.
that it's now filtering down and it's affecting our children, and our children have got high rates of anxiety, and we've got kids as young as 6 on antidepressants. It
Mm.
just That is just terrible.
It is.
We need
Mm.
to learn that, you know it's an amazingly large percentage of girls and women that actually do get abused at from a young age.
Yes. Mm.
um and we have to start opening up and saying that, you know people need to talk about this stuff,
Mm.
and open up about it. And if anybody is going through something similar, I would just recommend that they try to be as strong as they can, and just tell, even if you don't say anything, if you infer to somebody that you're close to that something is not right, they will put two and two together, and they will ask, is the answer four? Did this
Mm.
happen to you? This
Mm.
is what happened with my husband. I didn't tell him. I just said, I can't tell you what happened, but this it it was awful. And he said, honey, did when you were young, did somebody touch you in a way that you did not want? And that was enough for me to say yes. And then he said, okay, I know you love to write stories. I want you to write this to me in an email and send it to me as a story, what happened to you, because I know you can't tell me in person.
Mm.
And that's what I did.
Mm.
That was how I communicated it with him.
Mm.
But there are so many ways that humans communicate with one another. You don't need to use words if that's what you find too hard. Write it in a letter, draw a picture. Lots of people find it easier to draw pictures, or you know even just sort of write a song, or music, or anything. That's do a dance. Just
Mm.
explain it to somebody
Explain.
in a way
Yes.
that you feel
Express yourself.
comfortable.
Mm.
Yeah. And if you don't, it will just stay inside you, and it's just going to get worse.
Mm.
From personal experience, I can tell you, it doesn't go away. It doesn't get better. You learn
Mm.
to live with it, and it will eat you up inside to the point where your life just will not be the same. Um, you you this has affected me right down to fundamental levels, like I can't have somebody breathe on me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if somebody does something that I don't like, my body will tell me before my brain does.
Mm.
Um, and it affects me in every way. And now I have to try and unravel 32 years worth of layers of increasing trauma. If I had been able to deal with it at age 6, then maybe then none of these other things would have happened to the same extent. They may have
Mm,
done. I don't know that. I'm not a mind reader, but
mm.
they might not have done. And actually, what it might not have been as bad. So I think if you can just tell somebody, it just,
Yes,
it does help.
absolutely. It does, it does. And I think it's important for parents here to, of both girls and boys, to be more
Mm-hmm.
conscious and aware and educate your kids. I mean, we unfortunately live in times where we need to make our kids aware at a very young age,
Mm-hmm.
that if somebody, this way of touching is not appropriate. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody does that to you, come and tell mommy or dad or
Yeah.
whatever. And if that lacks, for some kids, then yes, you have to find somebody you trust, somebody you
Mm-hmm.
could go up to and talk to and say, hey, this is something is wrong. Because I think that I'm a parent, and I think when your kid is acting odd, something is wrong, something is bothering them. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a matter of 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You sit them, you have a conversation, and they say, oh well, I was bullied today in school, or somebody passed a harsh comment and it just made me upset. So if you pay
Mm-hmm.
attention, I think that you can catch on, as parents, to what's going on. But in situations where there are adults here right now who've suffered as kids through sexual or emotional abuse, reach out to somebody. I think I've mentioned this many times. Journaling helps a lot. So do
Mm-hmm.
journal a lot. Write your emotions, and write as if nobody's going to ever read, so that you
Mm-hmm.
can really take them out. And you don't have to read them if that makes you uncomfortable. You can just write them and put them away, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a way of your body actually processing and actually opening a path to release and let go of it. So I definitely, I always come and say this, I definitely encourage everybody, if they've been through something that has affected them at an emotional level, please journal it. Don't read it, don't look at it, but journal it. You're telling your body that it's okay, we can process it, and we can learn to let go of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. There's
uh
lots of things you can do.
yes. Veronica, we'll wrap up now. I
Okay.
want you to firstly state, where are you emotionally right now? How are you feeling emotionally right now? And where do you see yourself going from here?
Well, right now, obviously, I still suffer on a daily basis with extremely high anxiety.
Mm,
Um, I use a lot of tools in my toolbox, gardening and animals, and you know, helping my children um, to help me to manage that on a daily basis.
okay.
Um, I think I generally feel much calmer and more in control than I used to. Um, but I also think that comes from eradicating a lot of things in my life. So I really do have a very, very simple, existence. The absolute essential things are all that I um, really focus on. So I don't take on extra stuff unless I have to. I really limit what I do on a daily basis so that it gives me time just to rest, just to process. I spend time in the garden.
Mm.
Um, a friend likened me to an old retired lady the other day. Said you're like an old retired woman who just potters around in the garden. I was like, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm 90 most of the time. Um, I'm very tired still. I still suffer with, extreme fatigue, but
Mm,
I feel like I'm hopeful now for the first time in as long as I can remember. I feel like there is hope.
mm,
People don't treat me differently because of what I went through. Um, they're much more understanding than probably I gave them credit for throughout this time. I just always felt that if I kept this secret bottled up inside, that it was mine to control, and no, it wouldn't affect how people saw me if I didn't tell anyone. But what I found was actually that it didn't affect how people saw me, but it affected how I was with
Nice.
them, because it was affecting me,
Mm.
and my behavior, and I became difficult to be around. So I actually found that I kind of shot myself in the foot with that one, which is why I've started opening up a bit more. But I take a lot of time for myself, and I sort of do a lot of meditation and yoga and things like that to try and help me to not only to calm down the anxiety, but also to have time to process things that are happening, learn what my triggers are, learn what is why I have behaved in certain ways to words or other people's behaviors. And also, I feel, like there is things that I can do now. I have support from a great charity called Stepping Stones that deals specifically with sexual abuse survivor people, offering counselling. I've got a great mental health team here that are trying to offer whatever support they can. How that's going to be affected by this pandemic, I don't know, with the increase in people suffering with anxiety
Right.
and mental health disorders. I'm not sure how that will work, but unluckily, I'm not sure. For me, I started this process before the pandemic started, so that's helped me. Oh, my
Okay.
eldest has just come in to say goodnight. Hold on a second. Good
Sure.
night, Joe. Sleep well. Good night. Um,
Cute.
so yeah, mum duties come first. So yeah, I feel like there is a long way to go for me still, but I kind of feel like I know what to do now and what I have to do, and that is just be open, don't keep it inside anymore, talk to
Yes.
people, get the help that I need, and you know I'm hopeful that this year we're going to be going to taking the kids to Disney World. So
Ooh.
yeah, in Florida. So I am I'm still extremely anxious about that and afraid, but I've been watching videos, and I am actually, there's a small part of me that is looking forward to taking them, and so I just have to focus on that.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. I'm so happy to hear that for you. And I think the way you said it, it's not about getting it all done. I've made a post about it. It's not about having your act together. We're all a mess. The point
mm,
is to know how we're going to navigate through the mess, right? There's a difference.
mm,
There, first, you didn't know how you're going to walk through your life with the burden of abuse that was weighing you down.
mm,
Now you're still not where you want to see yourself, but the weight has been lifted because now you've embraced yourself and you've taken charge and control of you. And that is so
mm,
important for anybody who's listening, guys. It's not the massive steps that you need to take. It's the little steps. It's just a little bit, just opening up towards self-acceptance and self-forgiveness
mm,
that can open so many ways. Just journaling, there is no comparison, there is no time frame. I've spoken about this yesterday as well on my podcast, and that is that once you uh, embrace healing, there is no time limit to it. Actually, once you embrace healing, it becomes a lifestyle basically, because there's so much to learn from. And once even you heal, there's so many new things that come your way that you again need healing from. So it basically just becomes your lifestyle. And it's a beautiful lifestyle because now you're more self aware and self conscious. You know your triggers, you know, and you're really in control of your life. And you also know when things are not in your control. That is also okay, as long as you know what's going within here. That is more important, because if we take care of what's going inside of us, we'll find peace in a lot of areas of our life. uh, I wanted to ask you one more question before we wrap up, and that was, uh, how I think my understanding through your conversation has been that your present husband is very supportive and you are happily
Mhm.
married. I just want to make sure, because I want to give that message of hope as well, if that is the
Yeah.
case. So, just talk a little bit about your present relationship and your marriage.
Oh, yeah. My he's my second husband, and um, yeah, he's my best friend basically.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a great guy because he is very much open to trying to understand me as a person, and
Mm,
that's what he wants to do.
mm,
He spends a lot of time to understand me. It's taken us a long time to get here. 6 years of some pretty horrific rows and
mm,
lots of yelling and stuff like that. But we are both learning constantly. We talk all the time and we're constantly learning, and almost like every time we have a fight we'll have like a debrief afterwards. Right, well, when you did this I felt like that, and I didn't like that. So lots and lots of talking. But
healthy
yeah,
communication.
I not always, but yes, we do our
Mostly.
best. And I think
Okay.
we have, you know, 3 children to sort of focus our efforts on and make sure that we can pull through. But it's only
Mm,
very recently that he is aware of what happened when I was young. So
mm,
because of that, I think he's become even more intent on um, understanding how that affects me. Um, and I actually felt that when he understood and eventually I opened up to him and explained what was going on, it then brought the relationship to a new level, because he understood how much trust that had required from me to open up and tell him this stuff.
mm,
And actually, I think that he felt um, quite humbled by that, and
mm,
that took the relationship that little bit deeper. And it was almost as though I sort of said, you're my best friend, but this is taking so much from me,
mm.
that he sort of felt, yeah, that it was much, yeah, the relationship just went to a new level. And I think it's so important to have somebody beside you that, even if they don't, um, they don't understand fully what's happened, if they just try and understand how it affects you as a
You.
person
Mm.
and what they can do to not be an additional stress in your life.
Right.
There's enough of that
Absolutely.
already.
Mm.
Just so that they don't have to be leading the way in the front. They don't have to be pushing you from behind. They just need to be standing alongside you,
Yeah.
holding your hand, making sure that you have what you need to be able to heal yourself from them. And, he's very good at saying to me, how could I have helped in that situation, or is there anything you want me to do differently? Um, and we're very connected in that way, more so than
Beautiful.
probably a lot of people, because of um, the level of trauma that I experienced, and my illnesses now cause me to have full body paralysis and things that mean he has to physically haul me about, and
Mm.
I think when you're caring for somebody, again, there's like a depth of understanding that needs to be there, for you to sort of feel comfortable, for somebody to be that sort of, that person, that carries you around and things. So yeah, the relationship is good now.
Glad
We
to
work
hear.
on
I'm so happy for you because that was really important, and I wanted you to really talk on that because it kind of gives a message of hope that you can find healthy relationships, you can find good men out there. Veronica, first of all, I want to really thank you for coming forward and sharing your story and sending a message of hope and inspiring so many who are struggling right now. And
it.
on that note, I want you to share an advice that you will want to give for the audience right now who are listening, who are struggling through any sort of abuse, are feeling stuck, are feeling hopeless. Uh, what kind of message would you like to give?
Oh, that's a difficult one. There, there's so many different types of abuse that one can go through. I've been through a number myself, and how I react to them, it's all different. You know, how it affects you as a person is very different depending on what happens to you. Um, but I think the one thing that is really important with all of them is that you believe in yourself, understand that it's not down to you as a person. You are a good person. It's
Mm,
down to it's the person that's doing it to you. That no matter what they say, whether they, tell you that it's your fault that they hit you, or whether they say, "Oh, it's because you made me angry that
mm.
I,"
You
you
provoked
know,
me. Hmm.
yeah, why did
Mm,
you do that? Why did you
mm,
make me yell at you?
mm,
Um, you know, it's not your fault. It is something that this other person is feeling. A really good piece of advice that somebody once told me, um, which may be appropriate, is that judgment is merely a mirror reflecting the insecurity of the person doing the judging.
mm,
And I think you could quite easily replace the word judgment there with abuse and say,
mm.
that um, abuse is merely a mirror reflecting the insecurity of the person doing the abusing.
Abuse. Mm,
Yeah, often it
mm,
comes from, either they've had it done to them,
mm, mm,
or it could be that they're insecure at such a deep level that, they feel that they have to attack others. But the main thing is it's not your fault.
mm,
Um, you just have to be really strong, believe in yourself. And if it's something that you are perhaps no longer in that situation, but you're trying to heal from it, just be aware that, it won't happen overnight. You need to take time for yourself
mm,
to really process what's happening to you.
mm,
Um, and do it now, don't wait, because the longer you wait, the more damage that fire inside of you is going to do. And you'll
mm,
end up in a position like me where, you know, you have physical manifestations of the stress and the trauma. And, you know, it's easy to, you know, sometimes people forget going through something traumatic can happen really fast, you
mm,
know, but the ripples of that trauma that happen, it can take years and years for you to peel back, each layer of that trauma and really get to grips with it and understand um, why it's happened, or what to do and where to go from here.
mm.
But just
Absolutely.
be open with it, I suppose.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. I think you stated it beautifully. I would just wrap on by just taking from what she said is that uh, it's not your fault what's happening to you or what has happened to you. Uh, There is no shame in it, and you can always take it and change the story. That control is always in your hand. Don't live in
Mhm.
shame, don't live in guilt, because you did nothing wrong. You're a good person, and what happens to you doesn't define who you are. You control and you define who you are, guys. I'm sending
Mhm.
you so much love, and I hope that from tonight's story, a lot of you have the courage to heal, to embrace yourself, um, and to understand that you can take control and change your life at any given point. It took her, she's saying she's 38, it took her 38 years almost to realize and take control over. She never said it's too late, I can't do that, it's impossible. But she said that, okay, now I'm ready, I want to do it. And she did, and she's doing a phenomenal job with her healing. So I hope that this story inspires you and encourages you to take control over something you're struggling with. Just take the small step. Remember, it is the small step that will actually lead you to the bigger steps. So take that small step, whatever it may be for you in your given situation. Veronica, thank you once again. I'm sending you so much love and prayers, and I wish you all the best. Guys, thank you so much. We're going to go out now. Take good care of yourselves. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.